In this lecture, I am going to discuss about components in Angular. So what is component? Component is a TypeScript class with component decorator where we can create our own properties and methods to bind the data with the UI. Each component consists of 4 files: an HTML files that declares what renders on the page, and a CSS file where we'll write the CSS for the components, and a TS file where the class and the decorator are defined, and a spec.ts file for the component where we'll write the test cases for the component. So let's generate a component inside our applications. Let's open a terminal, and then in the Angular applications we can generate component with the help of ng, G for generate, C for component, and then the component name. Let's generate a component called test. Hit enter. It will create a new folder inside our app folder, and inside the test folder there will be 4 files for the component, and it will also update it our app module.ts file. So before using any component, the component need to be registered in the modules declaration array. You see, the test component is inside our modules declaration array, so that we can use this test component inside our applications. Now let's open our components folder, which is test, and inside this components folder we have 4 files. One is test component.ts, test component.spec.ts, test component.html, and another is test component.css. Now let's open our test component.ts file. So inside this file we have this test component class, which is implementing onInit. I'll discuss about onInit later when we will discuss about lifecycle hooks of Angular applications. Now let's see what are the other things we have inside this components file. So we have this component decorator, and inside this component decorator we have the metadata. So we have selector for the component. For now the selector is app test. This is a tag selector, and we have this template URL here, and we have styles URL here. Now let's open our template URL file, which is test component.html. This is the UI part for this component, and this is the styles part for this component. Now let's use this component inside our app component file. So let's open the test file again. You see, the selector of this component is app test. You can modify the selector also, so you can write also only test or test component or test C, anything you want. I am putting it test C, and I am going to use this component inside our app component file. So inside this app component.html file I will simply write test C. So this is a tag selector, so that we can use this as a new tag inside our HTML file. Now if I visit our URL, you see we have this test component here. Now I'm gonna tell the other selectors we can use inside this test component.ts file for our component. So this is a tag selector. Now let's talk about the class selector. So let's put a dot here so that we can use as a class selector. Now instead of this tag selector, let's add a div here with class. So let's provide a class to this div. The class should be the selector, what I defined inside this TS file. So now if I visit our page, you see no changes. That means class selector is also working. Now let's add attribute selector. So we need to put this text inside a third bracket so that we can use it as a attribute selector. Now I'll provide test C like this way to use this component. Now if I visit the site again, you see no difference. That means attribute selector is also working. Now you can also provide the template directly here instead of template URL for the component. So before that, I'm going to tell you the test component.css file. So I'll make that, first of all I'll make that tag selector, and then I'm gonna put the name app test, and then instead of this attribute selector I'm going to use tag selector for the component. Now I'm going to add styles inside this test component.css file for this component only. So let's add a class to this p tag red text. Now I'm gonna add styles for this p tag, right? So I'm gonna use the styles inside this app component.css file. So I will make the color of this text to red. Now if I visit our site, you see the text color change. Now if I use this class inside our app component h1 tag, this will not work because you see it is not working, because the styles what we are writing inside this test component.css file, it is only affecting to this test component only. It is not affecting to our app component file. Okay, now let's open our app component, and let's open our test component.ts file again, and I'm going to tell you something here. So instead of this template URL, you can also provide the HTML directly here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy this HTML form here, and we can provide it directly here. For that you need to write template here only instead of template URL. So you can put the template directly here. If I visit the URL again, you see no difference. If I change something here, let's put text great, you see it is working. And instead of this style URLs, you can put the styles directly here also. So let's put back text here, and let's add the styles here directly instead of this CSS file. Let's put the styles here directly. This will also work. Save this file. Okay, no, it is not working. Is anything wrong here? Okay, we need to change it to styles instead of style URLs, right? Because we are writing the styles inline here. You see inline styles is also working in the component. And another thing is that if you want to add any properties inside our component class, you can write it here, something like title. Let's provide test title, and if you want to add any other methods inside your component, you can use it like way, use like this way. Get, suppose I am going to add a method get data, so you can generate the method like this way. Okay, so for now let's remove it, and I'm going to tell you how we can use these properties inside our components. So we can simply put inside the double curly braces. Now if I see our URL, you see we successfully displayed the data. This is called data binding. I am going to discuss about data binding in the next lecture, so stay connected. That's all about the component.